This is the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, Top Secret Tuesday. If you are here, you are at the $5 subscription level. We have spent the better part of the last 4 to 5 months talking about psychological operations tactics in theory. Long terms like cognitive dissonance and the availability heuristic all are well and good, but until you can take those terms and use them in practice by identifying them, false narratives, false equivalencies, causation, correlation, and pick those out of a real story in the MSM or a real fictitious make-believe story. You won't, all of this means nothing unless you can put it into practice. So today, we are going to do that. There's been this story that came out, and I covered it briefly in today's YouTube video, that BBC did about this meat market in Zulia. Well, the meat market was only part of the story. Now, this is a 4-minute and 45-second clip, and we're going to go through it, and piece by piece, we are going to identify the different tactics and techniques that they use to make you believe something without actually saying it in the words. They are attempting to slow walk you and lead you to believe something to be true without actually having to say the words. It's a very subtle technique. So we're going to go ahead and listen here for the first minute or so.
This is Sulia's biggest and popular meat market. Well, it used to be at least. Now it's less about meat and more about hooves, fat, tripe, and bones.
All right, real quick, I'm sorry I didn't have that turned up. He said this was about Zulia's meat market in the western part of Venezuela, and how in this meat market they are seeing an uptick in people buying the lesser pricey cuts of meat. Well, the first thing you would have to know about this is that this is Zulia, okay, around Lake Maracaibo. This is one of the poorest regions in all of Venezuela, any time frame you want to look at. It has always been. This is their version of Detroit, parts of New Orleans, around the oil rigs. We have these kind of areas in the United States. Around the heavily industrialized areas, there are very, very poor. South side of Chicago, east side of St. Louis, parts of Dallas. I'm sure you get the idea of what I'm talking about. So this is where they went first, to give you a look at Venezuela, completely ignoring the entire eastern region of Venezuela or any of the cities over here or out here in the country. So this is the beginning of the hit piece. We'll continue.
Animal offcuts have become the affordable option for Venezuelans, priced out by hyperinflation. Anything makes a good soup or stew. Y jefe, lo veo comprando pellejo. Y todo. Es lo que le alcanza. Antes podía
Now, real quick there, he used a very subtle technique. I didn't even see it the first time until I watched it this time. So he was buying fat, and then he asked him how many kids he had, and then he said he had 4, and he said, "You're buying for them," and then he was nodding as he was saying, "Yes, I have 4 kids." The technique there is that they made you believe that they were just buying raw fat for the children. Now, if anybody's been to Central America, Latin America, South America, how they cook there is very, very different than how we cook here. I'm not saying that they don't make hamburgers or they don't make things or use meat like we do, but they take things like fat, like tripe, like the offcuts, and they make soups, and they make sauces, and they make stews, and it's some of the best stuff you've ever had in the world if you've ever eaten it. So that this market is something as a result of the financial crisis in Venezuela is ridiculous.
rotten beef is also sold here in this market. It smells strong, It's got flies all over it. Y la gente come, lo compra. A kilo of beef costs up to a third of the monthly minimum wage and would provide maybe a couple of meals, but this rotten beef is 1% of a salary.
Okay, what they don't tell you there is that literally no one makes, quote unquote, a minimum salary. Unlike here in the United States where people earn minimum wage, down there, the idea of what you get paid is done as a factor of minimum salary. Like this job pays 10 minimums, or this job pays 12 minimums, or this job pays 18 minimums. That anyone would pay, nobody pays one minimum salary. It's just not heard of down there. But that's something that they take advantage of, Americans assuming that there's a whole bunch of people down there earning minimum salary, quote unquote.
Refrigerators in the market have constant power cuts.
Y si falla la luz 10 veces en el día, aparte de eso se va por 4 horas seguidas. Al otro día cuando tú vas a sacar la mercancía, está en malas condiciones.
It's not just electricity. There's chaos everywhere. Hospitals are also affected by this crisis. Equipments and beds left derelict. There's no money to repair them. No garbage removal means outside hospitals you find huge piles of medical waste, including drips and needles. And piles of rubbish are also a source of food here. For desperate families, anything will do.
All right, we're going to stop there real quick. They jumped right out of the market and went right into the issue with hospitals. First of all, take a look at this junkyard right here. Do you see mass throngs of families? No. You see one or two people. You see, this is the thing they can't do. They search all over the place to try to find the pictures that they were trying to show in 2017, trying to make you believe that it's the entire country suffering from this. We have people here in this country that live on the edge, that pick through the trash. We have areas in this country that go through garbage collector strikes. I'm not saying that's the issue down here, but to show one random pile of garbage in one of the poorest, most destitute regions of Venezuela and then try to make it out as if the entire country lives like this is psyops 101.
But this is a province with huge oil reserves. This wealth is almost everywhere. It's under the ground. It's right up to its shores. Many here accuse the government of mismanaging the country's enormous wealth, to which the ruling party is very quickly to reply that it's foreign government and the political opposition who are to blame. But you have to queue for almost everything, from food to cash withdrawals, queues in which you can easily spend the whole day.
Okay, and here they're showing these queues as if all these people are standing in line at the same place. Notice how they zoomed right through part of that? That wasn't me doing that. That was them. They're showing lines of people at different places. If you've ever been to Chicago or LA, there are lines outside welfare offices and lines at different hospitals and free clinics all over poor America. And if you think this is unique, go visit Ecuador, go visit Brazil, go visit Colombia, Mexico, El Salvador. This is not unique to Venezuela.
Public transport is on the verge of collapse. People now take whatever form of transport they can find. And frequent power shortages are often leading to protests. This is a community that's been 5 days without any electricity. This part of the country, this is not rare. This is happening all the time. Not even those who die escape the crisis. Frequent power cuts mean morgues can't keep bodies refrigerated.
Once again, there was just a story in our own mainstream media. I believe it was out of northwestern Indiana, perhaps. Gary that region, and if you've ever visited there, it's like a war zone, south side of Chicago, about these morgues that closed up shop, and they go in and they find bodies that are hidden in roofs and in cardboard caskets. And once again, the issues with the power cuts down there, we thoroughly covered in today's YouTube video. There were terrorist groups out of Colombia, admitted, caught on tape, going into that region and bombing transformers. And with an incredible challenge, uphill challenge, dealing with the U.S. sanctions, getting parts, getting these types of things into the country, being nearly impossible. This is exactly what the U.S. tried to engineer.
Inmensa ahorita con esos cadáveres ahí. Si les digo a la funeraria qué pasó, si el gobierno no me paga, yo no me puedo llevar los cadáveres. Y tiene toda la razón. This is a rich nation, but most people here are not rich. ¿Cómo le afecta la falta de luz acá? When I met Maria Eugenia, she had been 5 days without any electricity. Her only fridge was connected to a neighbor's generator. So we got 2 fridges. This one works, not much in it. This one got damaged. And a power cut.
En un apagón que hubo. Se me quemó un aire, después fue la nevera y después fue la bomba.
Maria is about to undergo surgery for breast cancer, and she's had to find and buy everything the doctors need, including needles, drugs, and even the gloves. Hospitals simply don't have them. But she's worried about how she will recover in a house with no air conditioning in 40 degrees heat.
Yo no tengo a dónde ir.
Maria's drama is a Venezuelan drama. Vladimir Hernandez, BBC News, Maracaibo.
Now, there's actually different versions of this story. The one that I saw, he goes into a room and he talks about this hole they cut in the wall and they put a fan. Apparently, this version doesn't have that. Once again, we have, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you live in different parts of the South or even parts up Northeast, just about every part of this country has a section, has an area where folks live on the edge like this. And once again, this issue of not having needles, not having gloves, all of these different things is something that is as the result of U.S. sanctions. There are companies in this country that would love nothing more than to go down there and fix this problem. They're banned. They're prohibited. There are banks ready to refinance the loans of this country. He said it multiple times. This is a wealthy country. Has been for quite some time. Far wealthier than Colombia. And you didn't hear about Venezuela prior to 2014. Why? I mean, you might have heard about it when people were complaining about Chavez. But you don't hear about the Maracaibo cartel or the Maturin cartel. Point being, if you were somebody that wasn't schooled in psyops and you read this, and then you went, or you watched this, I should say, and then you went and read some story about how evil Maduro was, you would just make the leap. That this is just evil dictators, they do this, and la 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 la. The psyops in this is very clear. The imaging is very clear. They were attempting to show people picking out of the trash. They were attempting to show this poor old woman who doesn't have any power, any air conditioning, and they are trying to make you believe that this is the entire country. And it is not. At all. It doesn't even represent most of the country. Even if you use their numbers, which are heavily inflated, and they say somewhere between 3 and 4 million have left in the last 4 years, that represents less than 10% of the population of the country. What about the other 90% that are still there doing fine? The U.S. could do this to any country they want to of this size. Little 30 million, less people live here than live in the state of Florida. So, I just wanted to show you how this works in reality. And how quick, 4.5-minute video, they can do this, and they can influence millions of people with these tactics, just that quick. And you multiply this by the BBC and NBC and ABC and Fox and CNN and everybody else, and then our government as well. My little channel, even with 50,000 subs, it's an uphill fight to try to shoot this stuff down. So that's why I've tried to bring so many people here to the channel to understand what's happening and why they're doing it. So, Top Secret Tuesday. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.